Welcome back to FryMinis. I'm Eric, and today in our Monsters of the Multiverse coverage, we're taking a look at the player race, Goblin. Okay, so Goblins for players, at least in 5e, I don't think have ever been a top tier race. I think they've always been a well-performing, a well-represented race. I think they're a very fun race. I feel like a lot of people take them just to play a Goblin. Their bonus action, hide and disengage, that can be a lot of fun. Fury of the Small can be a lot of fun. You've got some cool stuff. And in the past, it was one of the very few small size races with a movement speed of 30 feet, which was faster than like the 25 that like a halfling would get. And that's all well and good, but one really interesting thing that I think with goblins, how they look is kind of a particular situation. So I think generally, just in the ether, people will think of a goblin as like a small kind of little green type creature, just like the Pathfinder goblins. But D&D goblins are yellow. They're bulky. They're not cartoonish. They look kind of mean, but they're generally a yellow skin. And Pathfinders, they have the big heads. They're kind of silly with the explosives, kind of more similar, I think, to like World of Warcraft goblins. And I definitely think a lot of people just flavor their D&D goblins that way, and that's totally fine. That's cool. But it was just the base lore is that they look a certain way, which is okay. But take a look at the art for Goblin that they've included in the book. This is a green skinned goblin. And I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but in the description, the lore for the goblins in Monsters of the Multiverse, it doesn't address their skin color at all. So just like, I mean, of course, you could always do whatever you wanted before. But now there's no goblins are yellow, but goblins can be green. They can be whatever you want. And it doesn't address it at all. It doesn't even say anything about their skin color. So I fully suspect that we will see a lot more D&D goblins that are kind of silly and kind of green just going forward. Also, I don't have the statistics to prove this, but I feel like goblins are the creature that have killed the most level 1 adventurers, all from a certain overturned wagon encounter that you might know. Okay, let's take a look at the actual lore in Monsters of the Multiverse for goblins. A subterranean folk, goblins can be found in every corner of the multiverse, often beside their bugbear and hobgoblin kin. Long before the god Maglubiet conquered them, early goblins served in the court of the Queen of Air and Darkness, one of the Feywild's archfey. Goblins thrived in her dangerous domain thanks to a special boon from her, a supernatural knack for finding the weak spots in foes larger than themselves and for getting out of trouble. Goblins brought this fey boon with them to worlds across the material plane, even if they don't remember the fey realm they inhabited before Maglubiet's rise. Now, many goblins pursue their own destinies, escaping the plots of both archfey and gods. Okay, so really compact options here, right? There's the whole point of this book, it seems, for the races at least, is to give you easy to use lore packages for these races, just to give you a starting point for you then fit into whatever world your game takes place in. And here, something with the Fae, something with Maglubiet. So if you want to have them evil, if you want to have them tricksy, you've got lots of flexibility here. This is a similar thing that we heard about in Bugbear, and we're really going to hear about when we get to Hobgoblin eventually. All right, so for our base racial template, it's the same as everything else. We've got +2 or +1 or 3 +1s to our starting abilities. We are roughly about the size of a human. We live for about 100 years. We have common and one other language. And if you want more detail, just freeze frame. Okay, yeah, all the standard stuff. So looking at our actual goblin traits, creature type, you are a humanoid. You are also considered a goblinoid for any prerequisite or effect that requires you to be a goblinoid. And that makes sense too with how we're doing everything here. I've said it 100 times. I really am looking forward to them expanding on these kind of like racial subgroups with different feats, different maybe bonuses or boons, maybe like those Fey boons. We can have special goblinoid options there. maybe items, or I think there's a really great potential there that I hope Wizards of the Coast capitalizes on. You are small, you have a walking speed of 30 feet, and you have 60 feet of dark vision. All right, those are all unchanged, no surprise there. I'm glad they're the same. Okay, so this next one is a just totally new thing for goblins. Fey Ancestry. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charm condition on yourself. All right, so we saw this with Bugbear. Spoiler, we're going to see this with Hobgoblin too. Basically anything associated with the Feywild is getting this or something very similar. And that's cool. That's great. It makes sense. It ties it, really ties it obviously to that Fey ancestry. So, okay. Fury of the Small. When you damage a creature with an attack or a spell and the creature's size is larger than yours, you can cause the attack or spell to deal extra damage to the creature. The extra damage equals your proficiency bonus. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, regaining all expended uses when you finish a long rest, and you can use it no more than once per turn. Okay, so yeah, if you were familiar with this one before, it was just once per short or long rest, which, okay, and now we're proficiency bonus per long rest, which, cool. I like that scaling. I'm comfortable with that. I'm still not quite sure why we're getting rid of most short rest abilities, at least from a racial perspective. Maybe because short rests are kind of hard to plan around because they vary so dramatically between tables, but I don't know. But the big thing, the massive thing here is that amount of damage. Before we were tied to your level, your character level. So if you were level 1, you did 1 damage. If you were level 20, you did 20 damage. Now it's your proficiency bonus. So that, of course, means most of the time a maximum of 6 damage. I mean, there's no two ways to look at that. That's a huge reduction in power. I like moving things to proficiency bonus. I like that. Going from 20 to 6 is a lot, right? And it's free to use, so it's not costing you anything other than its charges to use when you do want to use it. But if you have a proficiency bonus of 6, at what point is doing 6 damage to something going to matter? Like, cool, at level 1, you're getting you're 1 up on the damage you're doing. That's nice. But I think this might be too harsh, and I'm not sure what the answer is here. Maybe if it had been half your level plus proficiency, I don't know. I'm just speculating. Whatever. It feels harsh. I don't know that it is harsh. And I'm sure the math works out to where, well, you're using it more frequently, so it's at the end of the day, it's more damage. But those instances of small amounts of damage isn't really going to do a lot. I've always felt that the fun with this is that it can just take out a tough monster. Like if you're that little goblin and you're fighting this big ogre, like, yeah, you could come in with that sucker punch and knock him out with that. Like, that's cool. That's like a big surprise. And when you use it, it feels impactful. That's not going to be the case anymore. So I do feel this might be too harsh. Nimble Escape. You can take the disengage or hide action as a bonus action on each of your turns. Okay, and this is identical to what we had before. This is a really fun thing that you can have a really interesting time creating builds for. I know one of the most popular options is to go like a conjuration focused, maybe a wizard or a druid. Summon all your creatures out there and then just hide. And then on your turn, you can pop up, shoot or whatever, and then just hide again. And just playing it like that. And I think that's fun. And I think that makes sense for a goblin, how they'd fight. I think it's a popular idea to do like a rogue, particularly a rogue goblin, a dexterous kind of thing. But if you do rogue, you're already getting those abilities. So you can have a real bad, very painful case of feature overlap with something like that. But it is what it is. I don't know. Maybe if you really want to play a goblin rogue, maybe see if you can swap out those for something else. Maybe see if you can add frightened to your Fey ancestry in exchange for that. I don't know. Stuff like that you can homebrew, I think, is what keeps this game sustainable for a lot of people. Where if you're playing just purely raw, something like that can be a real pain in the butt. All right, so the Goblin, I think, is still a great option. I still think it's a lot of fun. I think roleplay style is its strength now. I think Nimble Escape can still make some really, really cool options for you. But I do think that Fury, that small nerf, was harsh. Believe it or not, I'm happy to see that we can have goblins that aren't yellow. When I first started playing D&D and found out that all the goblins were yellow, it seemed just like it didn't make sense to me, because I pictured goblins as little green monsters, and to see that there are these beefy yellow people was just such a strange thing. So it's not a big deal, but I like it. I'm a big fan of that. I don't know. Well, okay, so those are the goblins. Take a look. Join us over at FryMinis.com. We got all sorts of free stuff over there. And if you want, you can check out the recent winners of the January Spud Club Painting Challenge. We had some really, really great entries over there. FryMinis.com. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments. What did you think? Goblins nerfed or okay? All right, thanks. See you later.